Please note that the content of this episode has explicit language and is not suitable for underage listeners. Hi, I'm CJ, and I've done phone sex for 23 years. Let's get started. Hello. I wanted to ask real quickly, if there's something you want to hear, if there's something you want to know, if you have any questions, if you have any comments or concerns, please email me at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. I would love to hear your questions and comments and requests. I'd be happy to answer anything you have for me. The other thing is I've heard that, and I've mentioned to you too, that my episodes 1 and 2 are not very loud. So I'm thinking of re-recording them and posting them. So if you have any comments about that, let me know as well. So, I've always heard that I have a great voice. Everybody tells me you have a really good voice. Obviously, I have a decent voice if I'm able to do this. But anyway, my voice changes and I don't really do it intentionally. I would say 95% of the time it's not intentional. When I lay down, it gets deeper and more sultry. So when I'm on my phone calls, I'm usually laying down. It just helps me relax. It has nothing to do really with the call itself. It's more like, okay, now I can relax and have a conversation. It just helps me get into character. So when I'm editing my podcasts, listening to my voice, it's kind of cringy. We all hear ourselves differently. So I've been accused of manipulating my voice, but I really don't do that. I do it occasionally, but it's hard to have the sexy voice all the time. I just wanted to bring that up. I know in my podcasts, I talk really fast, and I really don't mean to. I really would like to talk like this and be slower and more sultry, but this is not natural. This is more me having to pay attention. So again, if you want to hear this voice more, I will be happy to do that. Let me know. But I'm usually talking in my podcast in my normal voice. I hope I haven't already told you about this story. And if I have, I always say I apologize because I keep track, but I don't keep close track of what I'm telling you. I was talking to a guy and he wanted to have phone sex. So we did. Then he said, "Do you like to be stuffed?" Well, what do you mean by that? You never know where the caller's going to go. And I said, well, it depends on what do you mean? Because, when they fuck you, they say they're stuffing you. So I'm assuming that's what he means. But again, I don't want to assume that. He said, "No, I want to stuff you with carrots and celery and onions." I pause. And I want to baste you and put you in hot water. And actually, I want to cook you. And then he said, "I want you to be really tender and I want to eat you." Doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that he really literally wanted to eat me after stuffing me. And I was disgusted by that. And I didn't know what to say. And he goes, "Doesn't that sound good?" I really didn't know what to say. I was stunned. I was surprised. So I let him know that I thought that was icky. I didn't appreciate it. And of course, he hung up on me. That was really gross, especially since his voice sounded like something like that he really wanted to do, kind of out of a horror movie. So when people say things, you just have to wonder, could you please clarify that for me? I'm not sure if what I'm thinking is what you're thinking. So that was kind of weird. And he is not the only person that has said that, although it's only happened a few times. But, one time is way too many. So I told you that I used to do webcam. I have many, many people call over time where we start talking and then they ask if I'll watch them on camera. They say, "I don't have to show my face. I just need you to watch me." Do I enjoy watching men masturbate? Do I want to watch them? And my answer is, I don't want to watch you. It's way different with someone I know and someone I care about. But I'm on a phone sex line for a reason. I don't want to watch anyone masturbate. I've done plenty of that. I don't want to watch random strangers and they really want to talk about it and they want to know why I won't do it. The truth is that ultimately or eventually they will show their face. I do not want to see their face. Anytime anyone has shown me pictures of themselves, most of the time they are not attractive. And then I have that visual in my head and I don't want to speak to them anymore. They look kind of like serial killers or people that I really don't want to talk to. I like the randomness of it. I like the anonymity of it. The other thing, too, is to be totally honest, that they'll try to talk me into doing it, meaning turning my camera on, and I'm not going to do that. That is where this always leads. Watch me, and then, oh, turn your camera on and let me see you. And then they won't be happy, and then they'll get mad, and then they won't call me anymore. I'm not stupid. I know where this goes. So I really just try to nip it in the bud immediately and say no. It might sound mean, but I've done this long enough to know where the truth lies, and it's with them wanting to watch me. So no webcam of any kind. I'm not watching anyone do anything. Besides, they insist upon sending me pics. Like I told you, I don't want to see any more dick pics. You've seen one, you've seen most. They're not all the same, I know. When they ask me if I want to see a picture of their dick, I usually say, if you want to send me one, fine. But then they'll say, no, I want to know if you really want to see it. And then I will say, sure. Sure with me is really me being ambiguous, and it's really a no. But they don't know that. They just want a little bit of enthusiasm. Just read between the lines. They don't get it. And if they're writing me and I say, sure, they can't tell what my inflection is. But if they're on the phone with me, oh, can I send you a picture? Sure. There's really not enthusiasm, but they don't care. They hear what they want to hear. And sure is yes. It's not no. No is no. And even then, sometimes I've said, no, it's okay. And they'll go, why not? Come on. And I'm, okay, fine. Send it to me. And fortunately enough, it took me a while, but I realized, oh, I can delete it. I didn't know I could do that. That makes me excited that when I get a dick pic, I look at it and I delete it. So I don't have to look at it again. Any pic, it's fine. So masturbation, watching and seeing a picture, not really for me. I'm not that girl. Somebody recently asked me if I give marital advice. First of all, I've never been married. But I've been telling my friends that if you've never done anything, whatever that anything is, never had children, never been married, that you don't have any credibility. I don't agree with that. I may never have had children, but I have nieces. I may never have been married, but I know people who have. I've seen good marriages. I've seen bad marriages. I've talked to many people, and to be quite honest, not everybody that calls has a bad marriage. Now, it's interesting because I think I might have mentioned this, and if not, okay, then I'll mention it now. People who call me have told me many times, not everybody, of course, but I have a really good marriage. How important is sex in a marriage? Of course it's important. We all know it. Is being intimate in a relationship as important as having sex in a relationship? It's important. So when a guy calls me and says I'm married and it's great, but I don't have sex, or she doesn't enjoy what I like unless they ask me, I don't say, well, why don't you try this or that? They have to ask. All I want to know is, what do you want? Right? When the caller calls me, it's just, what do you want? If you want to talk to me about your marriage, if you want advice or tips, I will tell you. I've been asked occasionally what to do, or should I do whatever it is, and at that point, I'll tell them. I never claimed to have been married, so they know that. But I'm female, and I can tell them maybe, well, rephrase that. I could suggest to them what they can say or do. So recently I had a caller who's going through a divorce, and he's acting like he's 12 because there's someone that they're interested in. And he wanted to know, should I do this? Should I pursue her? Should I say something? Should I do nothing? And she clearly told him she was not interested in a relationship or dating. And I just said, be her friend. Oh my God. Saying be her friend to a guy is like the worst thing ever. It's such a girl thing to say because guys don't want to be friends. They either want to have sex with you or they don't. But I don't think that is the case with every man. So I try not to give advice unless I'm asked. Of any kind. Whether a man is married or not, they didn't call me for advice. Most of them call me so that they can get off. And in some cases, like I said, just to talk to me. I am not an advice giver. I'm an advice giver in my personal life if someone asks. But I pretty much keep my mouth shut in my personal life too, because people want to talk. They do not want your opinion unless they ask for it. I will leave the marital advice to the professionals, but if they want sexual advice that I could help them with, they have to ask for it. I just don't, randomly give that out. I could help them with that, but again, they have to ask for it. I feel like I have to be very careful because I don't know their relationship and I only know his side. So I'm very conscious of what I tell people. My word is not gospel. It's just an opinion. And everybody needs to know that. You know, if I say do something because you asked me, it doesn't mean it's going to work. It's just an opinion. And what works for you doesn't work for the next person. So I don't know what your relationship is, like I said, and if it'll work with your woman. I've told you that when people find out I live in California, they claim they know who I am, that I'm very woke and liberal, and they spout all sorts of things to me. This is still happening. I thought it ended, but it didn't. So this one individual wants to have sex with an adult. Let me say now, an adult family member. He knows how wrong that is, and he also knows it will never happen. She has a boyfriend, that she is a relative, not a sister, but he can't help himself, and he's kind of annoyed at her for being a tease. He's constantly saying what a tease she is. She's teased him. She deserves it. She's a tease. Oh, whatever. He's one of those people that I mentioned, lives out of state, is very conservative. Well, isn't that interesting? He's very conservative, and he wants to do a very bad thing, and he's paying me. Someone who isn't as conservative as he is. Not just a bad thing, but with a family member. He wants to do a bad thing with a family member, but I don't say that to him because I say other things to him. So he says to me that if you're gay or lesbian, basically having sex with the same sex, that it's just as bad as having sex with a family member. Excuse me? I beg to differ. I think we got into a little heated discussion about that. He thinks he's right. I think I'm right. And so this debate, if you will, went on and on. But I try to hold myself back because he's paying me. And I want to keep him on the phone as long as possible. I don't need to debate with him, and I don't need to argue with him. I think I've touched on this a little bit, but I'll tell you something. That people from out of California want to argue with me about so many things. Political, non-political. Most of the time I keep my mouth shut because that's what I should do. But with this particular individual, I can't help it. I just lose my mind. He pushes my buttons. He's a regular. He keeps calling me. So clearly he likes this heated debate with me. He likes having it. No one else will listen to him. I particularly don't like it, and I get caught up in it. But it takes me a while. I'm human. I let him talk and talk and talk until I can't take it anymore. And then I say what I have to say. I say my piece, and he can either stay on or he can hang up. Eventually, he hangs up. But we're on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes, so my patience is quite long with him. He gives himself a budget every time he calls. So it isn't that he's angry with me and he hangs up. It's just that he's reached his financial limit for the day. We don't talk every week. It's probably every other week or so. I think he needs to change his fantasy. No, rephrase that. I hope he changes his fantasy, and I hope he changes it soon. He knows he just can't help himself. He knows it's wrong. He tells me it's wrong, but then he veers back in that direction. At one point, he was willing to go to jail for his fantasy, but he didn't want to lose his job, and he really didn't want to lose his family. It wouldn't have worked in his favor, and he knows it, and he knows he's got to drop it. So every time he calls me, I'm hoping he comes up with something different. And he has a couple times. So I think he's on the verge of dropping it and going with something else. So I can only hope that one day that won't come out of his lips anymore. I have another question for you. I've been shielding my podcast from saying things that you cannot unhear. And I told you that before, that there are things you can't unhear. But somebody said to me, they want to hear everything, that I should put everything out there. And I don't know if that's true. So unless I hear from you, I'm going to keep it away. I'm not going to say the awful things. But if you want to hear them, you need to reach out to me and let me know. And if I get any response at all, I will say what the unhearable is, if there's such a word as unhearable. Someone suggested that I read a short story, a naughty story with my deep, sultry voice. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. Is that something you want to hear, or do you just want to hear more about callers and phone sex and all that stuff? So reach out to me. Let me know if you want to hear a sultry, naughty story that someone else has written. If you want to hear something unhearable. If I don't hear from anyone, I'm not going to do either one of those. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I recently had a few calls from people who are in cuckold relationships. Remember, I told you about that earlier, what a cuckold is. Every single time I get one of these calls, it just surprises me. Every single time. Because if I'm in a relationship, I want to have sex with that person. I don't want them going off and having sex with someone else. So these guys are just thrilled. First of all, they have tiny dicks. They're not thrilled with that, but they are thrilled with the prospect of their woman going out having sex with someone else who is much larger than they are. The woman coming back, telling them the details and having them eat them out, cleaning them up, having sex with them afterwards, whatever the case is. Even the men who are told to get the lover ready by sucking them or stroking them and taking it in their hand and putting it inside their woman, they do that too, and they get excited by it and they love it. The guys that I talk to do not sound fake or that they've made it up. That's a hard one to make up to me. To call a phone sex line and make that story up, I don't think it's fake at all. I think it's actually quite common in the I've got a small dick category. Not every small dick does that, but a lot of them do. It goes back to saying how important is sex in a relationship. It's pretty important. But if you're not having it with your significant other, then why stay with them? The woman might say the guy is great. He's wonderful, but he's not good in this particular space. So he's okay with me having sex with someone else, but I want to stay with him. And then they go for it. I don't see how that works. On the flip side, I know men get jealous, and for them to be okay with their woman having sex with someone else just does not compute to me. But then again, a lot of things don't compute, so I listen and I marvel at these men. It certainly is not the type of relationship I want, and occasionally, depending upon the personality that I talk to, I ask them why they like it, or is it okay, and they're definitely okay with it. More power to them. Every relationship is different, and who am I to judge? But it really does surprise me every single time. I think if a man is lucky enough to be in a relationship and he is small, he's probably willing to put up with anything to keep his woman happy. On the one hand, it's very sweet and giving, and on the other hand, I would just find a woman who likes a man who is less than average in that particular area. The other thing, too, is I found that the women are very demanding. The man is very submissive, and some men actually get abused verbally by their women or by the man who is pleasing their woman. I had a caller once who used to call me and tell me that the man was very dominant towards him, and he was telling him he was going to take his woman and that she was now his and not the caller's woman, and there was nothing he could do about it. And I would say to him, then why do you stay? He would say that he can't get out. He felt trapped, but he liked it, and that never made sense to me. I would sit here and furrow my brow and wonder what it was that kept him with her. There are many, many different types of relationships, and this is one that I don't understand, and I don't think I ever will. But it isn't for me to understand. I will just talk and listen and do whatever these callers want me to do. And really, they don't want me to do anything but listen to them so they can tell their story because they have no one to talk to. They certainly can't tell their friends. It's a really rough situation to be in, and I'm happy to listen. I don't have a whole lot to offer other than lots and lots of questions, and they don't seem to mind answering them. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen. Everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Please reach out to me with your questions and comments at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. On Facebook at CJCJ and Instagram at phonequeen1. If you're listening on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new podcast is dropped. Until next time, stay sexy.